comparison with the other treatments over time. Thanks so much. I'd like to introduce the second speaker now, who's Tom Clarke. Now, Tom's going to, he's also an accredited bush regenerator. He's now retired from professional work. He's a keen birdo, and so he's got a wonderful span of knowledge crossing both vegetation and fauna. So Tom shares his knowledge as a volunteer with a range of organisations now that he's retired. And in this case, when he's working or talking about his work with Crowdy Bay National Park, he has been collaborating with the National Parks Association Mid-North Coast branch, who work in Crowdy Bay National Park, and he's been helping guide them through ARBA's post-fire program. So take it away, Tom.
Thank you, Teen. Okay, so the talk I'm going to give today is primarily about the rainforest at Kylie's Beach, which is in Crowdy Bay National Park, and the efforts by the National Parks Association volunteers. This group has been working in the national park, certainly up at the northern end, at the Dunbogan end, for a long time, and they have several sites, including Kylie's. So, but we'll concentrate mostly on this rainforest, this littoral rainforest that we've come to love, and but also I'll touch on some other bits and pieces from the fire. And just before I continue, I'd like to acknowledge the Biripi people. So what's happened there? I'm going the wrong way. So we're on the east coast, New South Wales, Crowdy Bay National Park. It's we're in mid north coast of New South Wales, so we're somewhere between Sydney and Brisbane, and down at a more local level, we're between Taree and Port Macquarie on the coast. That's where the park is. This is part of a map of New South Wales showing the extent of the fires, and a lot of the fires you can see actually off the coast, and there's our little park there, Crowdy Bay. The dark redness depicted there indicates canopy loss. There's what you're seeing there is pretty much repeated all the way down the coast through into Victoria. Okay, so the Crowdy Bay National Park is a large proportion of it is actually wet heath, and that's all in behind the dunes and across to the Camden Haven River. This section here that we're looking at is one of the main drainage points from that wet heath, where the creek tucks around this this rocky ridge here and drops across the beach to the ocean. So from along this rocky ridge through to the headland there is a little rainforest, and if you look at that image, you can see that in behind it is fire-affected coastal forest there. So the fire came up the back of that hill, that slope, and spotted over the top and onto this little rainforest that we're keen to restore. So this is from within that rainforest. Looking back over at the beach across a swale that holds water from time to time, sort of a wetland situation going on there. But then there's a margin of banksias, and then in behind the banksias is the rainforest elements. This is a photo of one of our first working bees in there, And already, so the fires, already the rains have produced a lot of green. The fires were in November 2019. By February, the rain started, and it's hardly left us since. So things are jumping out of the ground like mad on the mid-coast of the mid-north coast of New South Wales. But this picture is a good, it shows you one of the main features of what we're looking at when we first walked in to all the sites and having a look. Basically, we've lost the roof of our rainforest. There's a dirty big hole in it. So we don't have a canopy at all. We didn't anyway. So apart from watching a whole heap of stuff jumping out of the ground, including exotic plants, the main concern for this little area here was actually to foster a canopy and watch the canopy actually rise, and to keep a canopy to keep some moisture content in the soil and mimic a rainforest, mini climate. So it was agreed that certainly some of the woody weeds that we're encountering in here, we would leave for the time being, as they were our making up some of the canopy that we wanted. The approach then was to only selectively remove woody weeds if they are in direct competition with the native species that were coming through. There was, of course, a fair amount of vine growth going on certainly once the rain started, and sort of a lot of morning glory, and the Cape Ivy were the main contenders. So our priorities to start with was removing those vines and just selectively looking at the woody weeds. So this is some people on our first working bee chasing vines, and we're letting the other stuff grow up. As we remove some of our woody weeds, of course, it was great to find lots of regen happening on the floor. Like I said, the rain has hardly stopped. These little tremors that I found 12 months ago, they're way up over my head now. The rate of growth has been quite phenomenal. So every time we found this at our feet, we were overjoyed, and it became very quickly obvious to us that the site had great resilience, and we weren't too concerned at all about its ability to restore itself, though we're going to give it a little helping hand. Lots of diversity in the native flora that was popping out of the ground. Some of it as from seeds broken up by the fire and the new light. Other plants like this lily-pilly here, if you can see that, my cursor, actually regrowing from burnt stumps, and there's a fair amount of that sort of thing going on in here as well, like the ficus and some of the banksias were re-sprouting. So that was wonderful to see. But the diversity was fantastic, and we've tried to document what we've found down there, and I'll just go through a bit of that shortly. As I said, the rain came. We did have bare bits of ground, and we were a bit worried about that, but very quickly the grasses took off like mad. Grasses and some bracken. but there's a fair diversity of grasses as well. The larger, more open areas quickly became covered in blady grass, and you can see that this very quickly went to seed. So this became a waist-high thicket. So it wasn't a monoculture. There was lots of stuff creeping through this grass, lots of rubus, and the rubus is not just to this site. Lots of places we've gone and looked at on the mid-coast, you know, in the last 12 months, the rubus has gone crazy. It's been quite amazing. And lots of other things like the, you know, the glycines and lots of scramblers. So the and herbs. So the floor was looking really diverse, and this gives us great heart. So as you can see, this has taken a little while later. You can hardly see burnt stuff, but underneath a lot of this is fallen burnt trees and things like that. Lots of diversity just roaring out of the ground, including some very tall fleabane there. Our efforts to identify all the plants in here have proven quite good. We've got quite a lot of diversity in the plants. Those numbers are the total species that we've been able to identify at this stage. There will be more coming. And the number in brackets is the number of exotic plants in amongst that. So you can see that mostly the ratio is pretty good if you're looking at species diversity with natives versus exotics. So far, we have 67 species here. So that's not bad. And we'll be going in there next week and having another good look at this place. And maybe identifying some more plants, which would be wonderful. So the fires have given us a great opportunity to go and look at some problem areas that have bugged the National Parks Association for some time. And one of them is off the beach, away from the dunes, and this acacia saligna, this Western Australian acacia, which has run amok through the place. The fire has woken up a massive amount of this, and we're gradually knocking it all over. We've gone for on other working bees, we go for like a single species focus, chasing down this acacia saligna. That's the plant that's in the foreground here, in the hope that we can knock them all over before they flower, and also in the hope that perhaps the fire has woken up a very large percentage of the seed bank. If not all, it would be a very good start anyhow. So there's a saligna around Kylie's, the campground, and the road down towards a place called Fig Tree. That's being looked at by volunteers. Also up in Diamond Head, this was burnt right through here. Clumps of Watsonia were suddenly obvious to us, and those two people there in the center of the picture there, there's wiping those Watsonia leaves with the tongs of death, and being able to spot these things from some distance and be able to walk in and do this work was an advantage that the fire gave us. Prior to this, of course, there was some notion that there was some Watsonia out there, but it was difficult to locate in amongst all the other vegetation. Also, up at the Dunbogan end of the park, we discovered this is Gloriosa lily. And we, at the time, we just went around and marked all the patches. But we've waited till there's been enough growth on them to do a foliate spray. So again, the fire has given us this opportunity to knock over a targeted problem which has been there for some time. So the good work continues, and like I said, the place is very resilient, and just next week we'll have a resumption of our annual camp where people come from all around the place, and each day we'll be going out there and to different sites, including our rainforest, and just keeping up the good work with the restoration. So that's pretty much the presentation.
Thanks very much, Tom. That's excellent. We've got 2 or 3 minutes for questions. So yeah, look, the hands are going up. You could state your name as well.
Hello, can you hear me? Is that... Hi, Tom. It's my name's Phil McKenna. I'm from University of Queensland. I was just interested to see the Acacia saligna coming up. I'm wondering where it came from and how it got in there. I'm interested in mine site rehabilitation. So I know some areas up around there was sand mining there at some point. So I'm wondering if it's come in through rehabilitation practices.
Yeah, sure. That's most certainly where it's originated, except for the higher grounds and the rocky grounds. A vast majority of Crowdy Bay National Park has been sand mined previously. I couldn't tell you when. It's some years ago, but it would definitely be a result of rehabilitation of the ground.
Thanks very much, Tom. One more question.
G'day, Tom. I'm Paul Dolenchew from Healthy Land Warden SEQ. So I'm responsible for the bushfire recovery work we're doing in that part of the world. It's great to see the work that you're doing, mate, in an absolutely beautiful part of the East Coast. It's one of my favourite national parks, and it's good to see NPA involved as well, mob that I've worked with in the past. Your presentation and the previous one have, I guess, highlighted to me some of the work that we did in Lamington, where we tried to assess the, I guess, the plant response strategies of plants post-fire. So whether they were resprouting, coming back from seed, or whether they'd been killed. And what we did is we spent a lot of time just taking photographs of stuff that was coming back. We managed to do that for about 100 species, and 95 of those that actually were resprouters. And then we looked at what the successional status were of those species to see if there was some diversity there. And we found out to our shock that almost half were mature phase species. So I'm just wondering if you've done anything like that for Crowdy Bay.
No. The focus, I guess, of our work there is basically a continuation of the volunteer group, their work that they've been carrying out for some time, but just with some sensible strategies of since the fire, and using the opportunities that the fire has created for us to get on top of some things. There is some work starting soon by contractors. National parks have engaged some contractors, and I was told about that last week, and perhaps next week I'll find out more about that. And I'm not sure what their focus will be, but we haven't done a great deal of work with monitoring, except for our attempts at identifying plants in that littoral rainforest. What you're suggesting now is worthy of consideration now. And look,
I'd have to wrap it up there, Tom. Thanks for the
Tom,
running
that-
out of time here, mate.
Yep. And the other thing, Tom, is you're underselling yourself a little bit, I'm afraid, because you have got a table. It's not shown in this presentation where you've marked the strategic response of each species.
Yes,
So,
that's
and
right.
yeah,
That's right.
so and there are a number of other organisations who are doing the same thing as a result of these fires as well. So I think what I found really fascinating about Tom's presentation was the level of detail and photographs showing the different species and different responses coming up. So yeah, we shouldn't underestimate the first-hand observations that Tom's been making. And the responses also depend very much on fire intensity. So we've got a few organisations, so let's keep in touch, who are adjusting their listing of what strategies are relative to different fire intensities. So thank you so much, Tom.
That's okay.
Great.